I knew something was wrong the second my key wouldn't turn. It was a cold Monday morning in late January, the kind that feels like the whole world is holding its breath. I had just come back from the hospital, still wearing the jeans I'd had on for 2 days, still carrying the same overnight bag I grabbed when Michael collapsed. 12 hours earlier, I'd watched my husband die. I wasn't ready to face the silence of our home, but I wasn't ready for what I found instead either. New curtains, velvet, hideous. My tea set on the table, a woman inside sipping from our wedding china, his mother. Her smile didn't match the cold in her eyes. And when I asked why my key didn't work, she folded her arms and said it calm as anything. "You don't live here anymore." She was wrong. And I had proof. Let me ask you this. Have you ever been pushed aside by people who claim they loved you? If you've ever had to fight for what was already yours, stay with me. Because what happened next, it changed everything. My name is Clara Bennett. I'm 36 years old. I live or used to live in Savannah, Georgia. I'm a freelance interior designer, the kind that takes on small homes, coffee shops, sometimes baby nurseries if the lighting's right. And until last week, I was married to Michael Bennett. Michael was the kind of man who always left cabinet doors open, who'd hum off-key jazz in the shower, who once drove an hour just to surprise me with lemon tarts from that bakery in Tybee Island. He was kind, a little scattered, and completely mine. We met 10 years ago at a charity art auction. I was designing the gallery space. He was trying to sell an app no one wanted yet. We were both broke, both full of belief. Within 3 months, we'd moved into a tiny bungalow near Forsyth Park. Within a year, we were married. Our home was modest, 2 bedrooms, uneven tile in the kitchen, creaky porch steps. But we loved it like a castle. Michael called it our forever project. He used to say, "It's not about the walls, Clara. It's about the people inside them." When his startup collapsed 2 years ago, Michael took it hard. I still remember him standing on our porch, hands shaking, whispering, "They might take the house, Clara." But they didn't. Because the very next day, while he was still trying to catch his breath, I got dressed, drove to the credit union, and refinanced the house into my name. Quietly, no drama. No announcement. I'd been saving since before we met from design gigs. Odd jobs, even cash from repurposing old furniture. I used that nest egg to keep us afloat. Michael never asked, I never explained. We just survived together. His mother, Patricia, never knew. She never cared to. Patricia Bennett was the kind of woman who walked into a room like it owed her an apology. Cold sharp, never shy about how she felt about me. "This house is too small for Michael," she'd say. "Savannah's too quiet. Clara's too soft." She came around for the holidays, never longer than a day. Criticized the wallpaper, the jazz on the radio, the way I folded napkins. Michael always defended me, but with a tired smile. He never liked confrontation. And I let it slide. I told myself peace was more important. Then there was Lauren, his younger sister, pretty privileged forever in Patricia's shadow. She once told me I was lucky Michael married down. I just smiled, because I knew something they didn't. Michael chose me, not for my pedigree, not for my money, but because I saw him, truly saw him when no one else did. We built something real. Not flashy, not perfect, but honest. And now, he was gone. 12 hours after he died, I returned home expecting silence, grief. Maybe an empty living room that still smelled like him. Instead, I found new drapes, boxes stacked in corners, my teacups in unfamiliar hands, and Patricia standing at the door like a queen in mourning, telling me, "You don't live here anymore." She thought she knew everything. She thought I was weak, but she didn't know what Michael left behind. She didn't know what I had done for that house. She didn't know I wasn't done yet, and I was about to remind her exactly who I am. The doorknob didn't turn. I thought maybe I was tired. Grief does strange things to your body. Makes your fingers fumble, your thoughts slow. But then I tried the spare key from under the porch stone. Still nothing. That's when I noticed the curtains. My linen ones, the ones I'd hemmed by hand, were gone. In their place hung thick velvet panels, bright floral garish. My heart dropped. I stepped closer, squinting through the narrow gap boxes, my reading chair, but the pillow on it pink sequined, not mine. And then I saw her, Patricia, in my house, sipping tea from my wedding china. Across from her was Lauren, tossing throw blankets into a basket like it was just another Saturday morning. They were laughing. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again, harder this time. My knuckles stung. Finally, the door opened a crack. There she stood, Patricia Bennett, arms folded, mouth tight, as if she'd been rehearsing this moment. "Clara," she said, head tilted. "Didn't expect you so soon," my voice cracked. "Why can't I open the door?" "Because, dear," she said smoothly, "you don't live here anymore," I blinked. "You're joking, this house was Michael's," she continued. "He paid for it, not you." I felt something shift in my chest, not sadness, something sharper, something with teeth. "We bought it together," I said. "I refinanced it when his business collapsed." Patricia waved a hand. "You played house while he worked. Now that he's gone, your lease is up," behind her. Lauren stepped into view, holding 2 of my serving plates. "You left the side door unlocked when you rushed to the hospital," she said with a smirk. "We figured you wouldn't mind," I laughed. Not the kind of laugh that means joy. The kind that spills out when the world stops making sense. "What's so funny?" Patricia asked, narrowing her eyes. "You're unpacking pillows and pouring tea," I said slowly, "in a house you think belongs to you." I stepped back. "But you have no idea what you've just stepped into." Her smile faltered for the first time. And that one crack was all I needed. I turned around, walked to my car, my hands shook on the wheel. My teeth clenched so tightly my jaw ached. But I didn't scream. I didn't sob. Because I remembered something from 2 years ago. The cold morning Michael told me, voice shaking. They might take the house, and how I'd driven to the bank alone and signed papers that saved us. Papers Patricia didn't know existed. And maybe there was more. Michael was messy, but he was thoughtful in his own way. He kept things, documents, scribbled notes, backup drives in the office drawer. He once joked was his legacy folder. I'd never gone through it. But now, I was going to. Not for revenge, not yet, but for truth. Because if they wanted a war, they just declared it, and they didn't realize I was the wrong woman to underestimate. The motel room smelled like bleach and cigarette ash, the kind of place where time gets stuck to the walls. I sat on the edge of the bed, still in yesterday's clothes. The hospital bag was beside me, still packed. The roses from Michael's co-workers had wilted in the back seat. I hadn't cried yet. Not when he died. Not when Patricia locked me out. Not even now with my world unraveling under fluorescent light. Instead, I played Michael's last voicemail once, twice. Then I shut my phone off and just sat in silence. By morning, I did something I never imagined doing while widowed and homeless. I called the funeral home. A soft voice answered, St. Augustine Memorial. "This is Renee. This is Clara Bennett," I said, steadier than expected. "I need to update the guest list for Michael Bennett's service." A pause then. "Of course, Mrs. Bennett. What changes would you like to make? Please remove Patricia and Lauren Bennett from the list." A longer pause. Understood. It wasn't vengeance. It was the first boundary I'd drawn in over a decade. Later that day, I drove back to the house, not the front door. Not this time. I circled around the block, parked behind the hedges, and crept to the laundry room entrance. The side latch, the one Michael always said he'd fix, was still faulty. I slipped inside. The scent hit me first. Lavender air fresheners, Patricia's choice. Already trying to cover up the past. My photos were gone, my curtains, my throw blankets, my fingerprints erased. I moved fast. Michael's office was between the guest room and the laundry. It was always his chaos zone. Books, wires, papers in semi-logical stacks. Patricia hated that room, called it his digital dumpster. That's why I knew she wouldn't touch it. I was right, it was untouched. Still smelled faintly of his cologne. The last part of the house that still felt like him. I scanned shelves, drawers, stacks of paper, and then I saw it. A black folder labeled in his familiar handwriting, postnup. "Do not discard." I froze. We never had a prenup. Michael used to say, paperwork, ruins, romance. But this was different, hands trembling. I opened the folder. Inside, 3 pages on thick legal letterhead, dated 2 weeks after our second anniversary. At the bottom, 2 signatures, his and mine, a clause. Highlighted in yellow, in the event of the husband's passing, all jointly owned assets, including real estate, are to be transferred wholly to Clara Bennett, unless superseded by a will. There was no will, but this was legally binding. At the very back, folded in half, was a handwritten note. "If you're reading this, it means something awful happened. If Mom tries anything, show this to your lawyer. You know how she is. Keep this safe. Clara, his handwriting, his words, his warning. I sat on the floor and wept, not because I was broken, but because Michael, in his own quiet way. He knew he couldn't stop his mother, but he tried to protect me anyway. He left me the last piece I needed. I slipped the folder into my coat, left through the back door, just as I came. That night I didn't cry. I didn't sleep either. Instead, I reread every line of that postnup again and again until the words became armor. And by sunrise, I was on the phone with Angela Reyes, my old college roommate turned real estate attorney. Her voice was calm. Firm. "I've got you, Clara," she said. "Let's take everything they tried to steal and make it ours again." That was the moment the grief cracked, and underneath it was fury, was focus, was me ready to fight, ready to finish what Michael started. Wednesday afternoon, the motel kitchenette reeked of stale coffee and instant soup. I hadn't eaten much, couldn't, but my hands, they were steady. Angela had already scanned the postnup and the deed transfer. "This is airtight," she said. Not casually, not comforting. Like a surgeon eyeing clean margins, I trusted her. That trust was tested 20 minutes later when I heard the knock at the door, 3 times, sharp, measured, entitled. I peeked through the curtain. There she was, Patricia, dressed in black like she'd wandered off a funeral magazine cover, and beside her a man in a gray suit, clipboard in hand. A lawyer. I didn't open the door. Instead, I stepped outside, folder in hand, coat zipped to the chin. Met them in the parking lot where wind whipped Patricia's scarf. "Sideways, Clara," she said, lips stretched into a tight smile. "This is Mr. Langley, our family attorney. We're here to discuss next steps regarding the house." "Next steps," I repeated, voice. Even Mr. Langley cleared his throat. "With Mr. Bennett's sudden passing and no will, probate law dictates the estate, including real property, be equitably divided amongst next of kin." I blinked. "I'm his wife," I said. Patricia interjected. "You were—" I didn't flinch. "I'm so glad you came," I said, lifting the black folder. "Saves me a trip to your office." Her smile twitched. "This is a notarized postnuptial agreement," I said, "signed 3 years ago. 2 witnesses, legal letterhead." Langley's eyebrows lifted. "It transfers all shared assets to me, the spouse, upon Michael's death." He reached for it. "May I?" "No," I said, pulling it back. "You'll get a copy through legal channels. I've retained counsel." Patricia stepped forward, voice low and sharp. "You're bluffing." I met her gaze. "If I'm bluffing, you should walk away, laughing. But if I'm not, then you broke the law the second you changed that lock." Langley visibly shifted backward. "Trespassing, unlawful entry, tampering with property." Her face cracked only for a second. "You were never part of our family," she hissed. "You stole him." "No," I said. "You pushed him away when he stopped playing your version of perfect." "I just gave him a place to breathe." I walked back inside, didn't slam the door, didn't look back. The next morning, an envelope slid under my door. No stamp, no return address. Inside, a formal petition filed by Patricia Bennett, challenging the postnup. The accusations were vicious: undue influence, coercion, mental manipulation. She was painting me as a parasite who preyed on Michael's weakness, said he wasn't of sound mind when he signed it. I stared at the letter, then I called Angela. "She's accusing me of controlling him," I said flatly. Angela didn't hesitate. "That's what people do when they have no case. They throw mud and hope it sticks." "I want to fight her," I said. "Not just stop her, I want her out erased." Angela's tone shifted, steel under silk. "Good, but we do it smart." I sat down thinking. And then I remembered months ago. Michael had mentioned an appointment at St. Michael's Neurology. Just to rule stuff out, he'd said. Probably nothing. My hands moved before I could fully process. I ripped open my suitcase, pulled out the folder, dumped every document on the bedbills, receipts, reminders. And then I found it, a sealed envelope from St. Michael's Neurology Clinic, inside a letter. "Following your recent cognitive assessment, we are pleased to inform you that your results fall within the normal range. No signs of early cognitive decline were detected." My hands trembled. Michael was sound of mind. Patricia had nothing. By the time Monday arrived, exactly 1 week since his death, I walked into the courthouse beside Angela, every step grounded. Patricia was there in full widow regalia, Lauren at her side, playing loyal daughter. They didn't know what I carried in my folder. They didn't know the paper war had already been won. Angela whispered before we entered. Let them underestimate you one more time, and I smiled. Because that was the last time they ever would. The courtroom smelled like dust and tension. I sat at the respondent's table beside Angela, hands folded in my lap, palms damp but steady. Across the aisle sat Patricia Head, high black veil tissue already in hand, like she was waiting for her cue. Lauren sat beside her, silent, almost apologetic. Angela didn't say much. She didn't need to. Her confidence was a current I could stand in. The judge, a woman in her 60s, silver glasses, tired but sharp eyes, called the room to order. Mr. Langley, Patricia's lawyer, went first. His voice was soft, concerned. He spoke of Michael's mental fragility in the months before his death. He never used the word coercion, but it hung in the air like a loaded gun. Patricia dabbed at her eyes, right on cue. Angela stood. She didn't raise her voice, didn't perform. She laid the facts down like bricks in a wall. Notarized postnuptial agreement. Mortgage records paid from my account. Property deed in my name. Medical clearance from St. Michael's Neurology, 3 months before Michael's death. Then she turned to the judge and said calmly, Your Honor, this letter confirms Michael Bennett's full cognitive capacity at the time of signing. The petitioner has provided no documentation of diminished capacity. This is legally binding silence. Mr. Langley opened his mouth, closed it. The judge adjusted her glasses. Do you have counter evidence, medical testimony, psychiatric reports? Langley hesitated. No, Your Honor. Then came the sentence that stopped the world. There are no legal grounds to challenge the postnuptial agreement. The deed is valid. This house legally belongs to Mrs. Clara Bennett. Case dismissed. The gavel cracked like thunder. I didn't cheer, didn't cry. I just exhaled. A long, full breath. I didn't know I'd been holding for over a week. Outside, the sky was clear. The courthouse steps felt like freedom, but Patricia wasn't done yet. She followed me outside, heels clicking like bullets on marble. You may have won the house, she hissed, but you'll never erase me. I'm his mother. I turned. Calm. You already erased yourself, I said. She blinked. What? The day you changed the locks. The day you stole my plates. The day you lied to a court. Michael knew who you were. That's why he signed the postnup. That's why he warned me. Her face cracked just slightly. And if you ever come near me again, I added, I won't need another courtroom. The restraining order is already filed. She stumbled back half a step. You can't stop me from attending his funeral, she snapped. I didn't flinch. I already did. Her eyes narrowed. I called the funeral home the day you locked me out. Your names are off the list. If you show up, security will escort you out. She gritted her teeth. You vindictive little… No, I cut her off. I'm not vindictive. I'm done. I walked away. The chapel was quiet. No organ music yet. Just the soft murmur of friends arriving. I wore black, not mourning but power. Angela sat in the front row, not as my lawyer now, but as a friend. The urn rested on a velvet cloth blue, Michael's favorite color, and then I saw them, Patricia and Lauren, dressed in black veils, sneaking into the back row like ghosts. They weren't on the list. Someone must have looked away. Angela leaned in, want me to handle it. I shook my head. No, this one was mine. I walked slowly, heels echoing down the aisle. The music paused. The minister stepped aside. I reached them, met Patricia's eyes. You're not supposed to be here. We're not leaving, she said tightly. I gave birth to him, and I was the one he chose. She straightened, ready to argue. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. If you stay, I walk. I'll take the minister. We'll hold the service in a parking lot if we have to. But you will not sit here and pretend you didn't try to erase him. The room held its breath. And then Lauren spoke. Mom, she whispered. Let's go. Patricia froze. We're not wanted here, Lauren said softly. Let's stop pretending. She stood. Patricia followed, tight-lipped, defeated. No scene, no argument. Just 2 sets of heels clicking out of the building, and a soft click of the chapel door closing behind them. I turned, walked back to the front, and said goodbye to Michael, surrounded by people who actually knew who he was. No lies, no masks, only truth. And finally, peace. The house was quiet after the funeral. Not the kind of quiet that soothes, the kind that watches you. Waits for you to break. I stood at the kitchen sink in Michael's old sweatshirt. Fingers wrapped around a chipped mug. The coffee had gone cold an hour ago. Outside, the garden was bare. just dark soil and a few scattered dreams. I turned around half expecting to see him at the table, humming some off-key melody, legs kicked up like he always did. But the chair was empty, the mug was his, the silence was mine. A few days later, I saw Patricia's car, parked across the street at 7 a.m., engine off, window cracked, just watching. She didn't knock, didn't move. I didn't call anyone, didn't take a photo, didn't flinch. I walked outside, barefoot, mug in hand, hair undone, met her eyes. She flicked her cigarette out the window, started the car, and drove away. No threats, no final words, just smoke and silence. But I knew what it meant. A retreat, not surrender. Her last whisper, I still exist. But this time I didn't care. I turned back inside, locked the door, and exhaled. That afternoon I found Michael's old garden journal. Sketches, notes. A packet of marigold seeds taped to the back. For Clara, one day when you're ready. I wasn't ready, but I went outside anyway, planted every seed with my bare hands. And a week later I found another envelope. No stamp, just 6 words typed in bold. This house will always be mine. I laughed, not out of spite, not in anger, but in release. She had nothing left, no keys, no case, no claim. I dug a hole beneath the marigold bed, buried the note deep in the dirt, fertilized it, whispered, "You don't haunt me anymore," and went inside, made cinnamon tea, because Michael always said grief needed something sweet. The marigolds bloomed by June gold and orange like fire from the earth. And one morning I whispered to the petals, "I didn't win, because I destroyed you. I won because I refused to let you destroy me. That's not revenge, that's survival, and survival smells a lot like marigolds." What did you think of this story? If you were in Clara's shoes, what would you have done when the locks changed? Let us know in the comments. And if you believe Clara deserved that house and that peace, vote number 2. If not, vote number 7. Don't forget to subscribe to EN Reddit Story for more stories that bloom from battlefields every single day.